Hello everyone and welcome to a new lesson. I would like to begin today's lesson with a challenge. Take a look at these two sentences. Regular exercise reduces the risk of heart disease. The second sentence, physical activity lowers the chances of developing cardiovascular problems. Now, let me ask you a question. Do these sentences use the same words? No. Do they have the same sentence structure? No, they do not. Do they look identical? Definitely not. But here's the important question. Do they communicate the same idea? And the answer is yes. And that simple observation reveals one of the most important secrets of reading comprehension. Strong readers don't focus on words. Strong readers focus on meaning. Unfortunately, many students never realize this. They spend years memorizing vocabulary. They spend years looking for exact wording. Then they become frustrated when answer choices use different language than the passage they just read. The problem is not that they can't read. The problem is that they're looking at the wrong thing. Today, we're going to fix that. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand what paraphrasing really is, why it's such an important reading skill, and how to use powerful paraphrasing strategies that strong readers use every day. So, let's begin. Before we talk about strategies, let's define paraphrasing. Many students believe paraphrasing means replacing words with synonyms. That sounds reasonable. Unfortunately, it is wrong. Paraphrasing is not about replacing words. Paraphrasing is about expressing the same idea using different language, using your own words. Notice the key word in that definition, idea, not words. If the meaning changes, you've failed to paraphrase. If the meaning remains the same, you've succeeded. Think about paraphrasing as translation. When most people hear the word translation, they think about moving from one language to another. For example, English to Spanish, Spanish to French, French to Italian, you name it. But today, we're talking about a different kind of translation. We're talking about translating meaning. Imagine an author writes something in highly academic language. Your job as a reader is to translate that idea into language that makes sense to you. That process is paraphrasing. And once you understand that, reading becomes much easier. Let me show you one of my favorite analogies. Imagine 4 different currencies: a US dollar, a euro, a Canadian dollar, and a British pound. Each one looks different. Different colors, different symbols, different designs, yet they can still represent equivalent value. The appearance changes, but the value remains. Words work the same way. The wording can change, the structure can change, the vocabulary can change, but the meaning remains. That's why paraphrasing is so important. It teaches you to focus on the value rather than the appearance. Strong readers learn to see through wording. They focus on the message, not the vocabulary, not the sentence structure, but the message. And that skill becomes increasingly important as texts become more difficult. Let me share the biggest mistake students make. Many students believe reading comprehension works like this. You read a sentence, you find the same words in the answer choices, you select the answer. But unfortunately, that's not how reading comprehension works. Authors restate ideas. Teachers restate ideas. Researchers restate ideas. Textbook writers restate ideas. And exam writers restate ideas. In fact, many reading comprehension questions depend on your ability to recognize an idea when it appears in a different form. Let's look at another example. Here is the original sentence. Children who regularly participate in physical activity often experience improved cardiovascular health. Now, let's paraphrase it. A possible paraphrase could be, young people who exercise frequently tend to develop healthier hearts. So as you see, this sentence uses different words, different structure, but maintains the same meaning. So strong readers recognize that immediately, and that's exactly what we're going to learn today. Let's start our first strategy. It is called avoid the synonym trap. The synonym trap occurs when students believe paraphrasing means replacing a few words with synonyms. The sentence looks different, but the meaning has not really been translated. Let's look at an example. Here is the original sentence. The patient exhibited symptoms of dehydration. And here is the paraphrase, but it's a weak paraphrase. The patient displayed symptoms of dehydration. At first glance, this looks acceptable. After all, one word changed. Exhibited became displayed. But let's ask an important question. Did we explain the idea? Not really. The sentence still assumes the reader understands dehydration. The sentence still looks very similar to the original. Now, look at this version, a stronger paraphrase. The patient appeared to be lacking enough fluids. Notice what happened. Instead of replacing a word, we explained the idea. And that is the goal of paraphrasing. Let's try another example. The original sentence states, the medication significantly reduced symptoms. Here is an intent to paraphrase. The medication greatly decreased symptoms. And now here is a stronger paraphrase. The treatment helped lessen the patient's health problems. Again, notice the difference. The strong version explains the meaning. The weaker version simply swaps vocabulary. Here's the rule I want you to remember. Weak paraphrasers replace words. Strong paraphrasers explain ideas. Every time you paraphrase something, ask yourself, did I explain the idea, or did I simply replace a few words? That question alone can dramatically improve your paraphrasing. Now, why does this strategy work? The synonym trap is dangerous because it creates the illusion of understanding. Students often think, I changed the words, therefore I paraphrased. But that is not how paraphrasing works. Strong paraphrasing requires comprehension. You cannot explain an idea unless you understand it. And that's exactly why this strategy is so valuable, because it forces you to focus on meaning rather than vocabulary. Let's move on to our second strategy. This is one of my favorite because it immediately reveals whether you truly understand a sentence, and it is called the 5-word challenge. Here is how it works. Step 1, read the sentence. Step 2, identify the 5 most important words. Step 3, explain the sentence without using those words. Let's try it. Here is the original sentence. Nurses working 12-hour shifts reported higher levels of fatigue. The 5 most important words might be nurses, 12-hour shift, reported, higher levels, fatigue. Now comes the challenge. Can we explain the sentence without using these words? One possible paraphrase could be, healthcare workers who spent longer hours on the job felt more tired. Notice what happened here. The original vocabulary disappeared, but the meaning remained. Now, why does this strategy work? The 5-word strategy removes your safety net. Most students rely heavily on the author's language. When words disappear, they can no longer copy, they must think, and thinking leads to understanding. This strategy forces your brain to translate, and remember, translation is exactly what paraphrasing is. Whenever you're reading difficult material, try this. Read a sentence, cover it, remove the keywords, then explain the idea. If you can do that successfully, you probably understand it. If you can't, you probably need to reread it. Let's learn our third strategy. This one is incredibly practical, and it's called explain it to a 12-year-old. This strategy is especially useful when you are reading academic texts. You know the kind of texts I'm talking about. The ones that make you stop halfway through a sentence and think, what does that even mean? When that happens, don't panic, but translate. Let's look at an example. Here is the original sentence. Sleep deprivation impairs cognitive performance. For many students, that sentence feels intimidating, but let's break it apart. Sleep deprivation, what does that mean? Not getting enough sleep. Impairs, what does that mean? Makes worse. Cognitive performance, what does that mean? The ability to think clearly. Now, let's put everything together. Not getting enough sleep makes it harder to think clearly. Suddenly, the sentence isn't intimidating anymore. The meaning stayed the same. The language became simpler. That's paraphrasing. Why does this strategy work? Many students become trapped by academic language. The moment they encounter difficult vocabulary, they stop thinking about meaning. Instead, they start worrying about words. And this strategy reverses that process. It forces you to think on understanding and not memorization, not jargon, understanding. Here's the rule. If you can explain it to a 12-year-old, you probably understand it. If you cannot explain it to a 12-year-old, keep working with the text, because true understanding produces clarity. Before I explain what a word family is, let's think about how language works. Imagine that 5 different people are describing the same situation. Person 1 says the company's profit increased. Person 2 says the company's profit grew. Person 3 says the company's profits expanded. Person 4 says the company's profits rose. Person 5 says the company's profits went up. Now, here's my question. Are these people describing different events? No, they're not. They're describing the same event. The wording changes, but the meaning remains the same. So strong readers recognize that immediately. Weak readers often get distracted by vocabulary. That's where word families become useful. A word family is a group of words or phrases that communicate similar meanings. Let's look at some examples. Increase, rise, grow, expand, go up. Decrease, reduce, decline, lessen, go down. Cause, create, produce, generate, lead to, result in. Show, demonstrate, indicate, reveal, illustrate. Important, significant, notable, essential, critical. Risk, danger, likelihood, possibility of harm, threat. The more word families you recognize, the easier reading becomes. Let's practice. Here is the original sentence. Researchers observe significant improvements in patient outcomes. Let's translate that. Observed becomes noticed. Significant becomes major. Improvements becomes positive changes. Patient outcomes becomes patient results. Now, let's paraphrase the sentence. Scientists noticed major positive changes in patients' health results. As you see, the sentence uses different wording, but it projects the same meaning. Now, why does this strategy work? Strong readers don't process every word individually. Instead, they recognize relationships between words. Word families help you build those relationships. Think of each word family as another tool in your translation toolbox. The larger your toolbox becomes, the easier it becomes to recognize meaning. How can you apply that? Whenever you encounter a new academic word, write down 2 or 3 related expressions that communicate a similar meaning. Over time, you'll build your own translation dictionary, and that dictionary will become one of your most valuable reading tools. Let's practice together. Pause the video and identify possible word family substitutions for these words. Increase, danger, important, demonstrate. When you're ready, continue. Here are some possible answers. Increase could be rise, expand, grow. Danger could be threat, risk, hazard. Important could be significant, critical, notable. Demonstrate could be show, reveal, indicate. As you see, the more word families you know, the easier reading becomes. Meaning matching is the ability to recognize that 2 sentences communicate the same idea, even when they use completely different wording. This skill is increasingly important because reading comprehension questions rarely repeat the exact wording of a passage. Instead, they resume ideas. Strong readers recognize those restatements. Let's look at an example. Sentence A. The medication significantly reduced symptoms. Sentence B. The treatment greatly decreased the patient's symptoms. Now, let's compare them. Medication versus treatment. Significantly versus greatly. Reduced versus decreased. Symptoms versus patient symptoms. As you see, these are different words, but they have the same meaning. That is meaning matching, and it is one of the most important skills that you can develop. Now, why does this strategy work? Meaning matching asks one simple question. Do these sentences communicate the same idea? If the answer is yes, you've identified a paraphrase. How can we apply this strategy? Whenever you're reading answer choices on an exam, stop looking for matching words. Instead, you should be looking for matching ideas. That shift alone can dramatically improve reading comprehension performance. Let's practice. Sentence A. Lack of sleep can negatively affect academic performance. Sentence B. Students who do not get enough rest may struggle in school. Pause the video. Do these communicate the same meaning? The answer is yes. They use different wording, but the same idea. This is exactly the kind of thinking strong readers use. Let's look at another way meaning hides. Sometimes the vocabulary stays relatively similar, but the sentence structure changes dramatically. This strategy is called rearranging the furniture. Imagine a living room. You move the couch, you move the chairs, you move the lamp. Everything looks different, but is it still the same room? Well, of course. The arrangement changed, but the room remained the same. Sentence structure works the same way. Let's look at an example. The original sentence says, because the medication was administered early, the patient's symptoms improved rapidly. Notice the order. The cause goes first, the effect goes second. Now, let's rearrange the furniture. The patient's condition improved quickly after receiving treatment at an early stage. The order now changed. The wording also changed, but the meaning remained the same. Now, why does this strategy work? Many students assume paraphrasing requires keeping the original sentence structure, but it doesn't. In fact, changing the structure often creates a stronger paraphrase. Why? Well, because it forces you to think about the relationship between ideas. When you rearrange information, you are actually processing it, and processing leads to understanding. Now, how can we apply this strategy? Whenever you encounter an important sentence, experiment with changing the order of information. Move causes, move effects, move supporting details. As long as the meaning remains the same, you are paraphrasing successfully. Imagine you're holding a camera. Right now, you're standing very close to your subject. You can see details, you can see individual features, you can see specific characteristics, but you cannot see the whole picture. When you zoom out, suddenly those details become part of something larger. That's exactly what zooming out means in paraphrasing. Zooming out means moving from a specific example to a broader idea. Let's look at an example. The original sentence states, nurses working 12-hour shifts reported higher level of fatigue. Now, let's zoom out. Longer work schedules can increase tiredness among healthcare professionals. Notice what changed here. The original sentence focused on a specific group, nurses, 12-hour shifts, fatigue. The paraphrase, however, focuses on a broader idea: healthcare professionals, longer work schedules, and tiredness. The details become more general. The meaning, however, remains the same. Why does this strategy work? Well, zooming out helps you identify the author's main idea. Many students become trapped in details. They remember examples, they remember statistics, they remember names, but they forget the larger point. Zooming out forces you to ask, what larger idea does this example represent? That question helps you identify main ideas quickly. Now, how can we apply this strategy? Whenever you finish reading a paragraph, challenge yourself to explain its main point in a single broad sentence. That is zooming out. Now, let's practice together. The original sentence is, employees who work in extremely noisy environments often experience increased stress levels. Pause the video and paraphrase it. Could you zoom out? A possible answer could be workplace conditions can influence employee well-being. As you see, we use different words focused on the broader idea, but we preserved the same meaning. Now, let's reverse the process. Imagine the camera again. This time, instead of zooming out, you are zooming in. The image becomes more detailed, more specific, more concrete. That's exactly what zooming in does. Zooming in means moving from a general statement to a more detailed explanation. Let's look at an example. The original sentence is, "Poor dietary habits negatively affect health." Now, let's zoom in. Eating excessive amounts of unhealthy foods can contribute to obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. As you see, the statement now became more detailed. However, the meaning remained the same. Why does this strategy work? Zooming in helps you deepen understanding. Sometimes broad statements feel vague, but adding details makes them easier to understand. Stronger readers move easily between general ideas and specific examples. How can we apply this strategy? Whenever you encounter a broad statement, ask yourself, what specific example would help explain this idea? That simple question encourages deeper understanding. Now, let's have you practice. The original sentence is, "Exercise improves health." Pause the video and paraphrase it with a zoomed in version. How could you zoom in? Here's a possible answer. Regular exercise strengthens the heart, improves circulation, helps regulate weight, and reduces the risk of many chronic diseases. As we see, the paraphrased, zoomed-in version provides more detail, yet it preserves the same meaning. Now, let's talk about a strategy every successful student uses, and that is compression. Imagine you're packing for a 2-week trip. You have clothes, shoes, toiletries, accessories, but you cannot take everything exactly as it is. You must compress, you must reduce, you must simplify. Paraphrasing sometimes works the same way. Compression means expressing a large amount of information using fewer words. Let's look at an example. The original sentence is, researchers conducted a 5-year study involving more than 3,000 participants to examine the relationship between sleep habits and workplace performance. Now, let's paraphrase this sentence with a compressed version. Scientists completed a large long-term study on sleep and job performance. As we see, the paraphrased compressed version is shorter, simpler, but it preserves the same meaning. Now, why does this strategy work? Compression helps you identify what matters most. Strong readers know how to separate essential ideas from supporting details. Compression forces you to focus on the core message. How can we apply this strategy? After reading a paragraph, challenge yourself to summarize in a single sentence. If you can do that successfully, you've probably identified the author's main point. Now, let's have you complete one more practice. The original sentence is, drinking adequate amounts of water helps regulate body temperature, transport nutrients, support digestion, and maintain overall health. Pause the video and paraphrase it. How could you compress it? A possible compressed paraphrase could be, proper hydration supports overall health. If your paraphrase was somehow similar to that, then you did a good job. The last strategy that we're going to learn is expansion. Now let's do the opposite of the previous strategy. Imagine opening that suitcase. Everything comes back out. The compact version becomes detailed again. That is expansion. Expansion means taking a brief statement and unpacking it. Let's look at an example. The original sentence states, "The intervention proved effective." Now let's expand it. The treatment successfully produced the desired results and helped improve patient outcomes. As you see, the expanded paraphrase is now more detailed, and at the same time, it preserves the same meaning. Why does this strategy work? Expansion deepens understanding. Sometimes students can repeat a short statement without truly understanding it. Expansion forces them to unpack that idea, to explain it, to elaborate on it, to explore its implications. How can we apply this strategy? Whenever you encounter a brief statement, ask yourself, what additional information would help someone understand this idea more clearly? That is expansion. It's time to bring everything together. We're going to use all 10 strategies on a single passage. Researchers observed that healthcare workers who consistently obtained fewer than 6 hours of sleep demonstrated reduced attention, slower reaction time, and a greater likelihood of making errors during complex tasks. At first glance, this sentence looks complicated, but now we have the tool, so let's use them. Step 1, we're going to apply the 5-word challenge, and let's identify the key ideas. Healthcare workers, less than 6 hours of sleep, reduced attention, slower reaction, more mistakes. As you see, the sentence already feels simpler. Step 2. Let's explain it to a 12-year-old. If workers don't get enough sleep, they have a harder time paying attention and are more likely to make mistakes. As you see, the paraphrased version is easier to understand, yet it preserves the same meaning. Step 3. Word families. Observed becomes noticed, demonstrated becomes showed, likelihood becomes chance. And as you see, the academic language suddenly becomes more familiar. Let's move to step 4, which is meaning matching. The original sentence said, researchers observed that healthcare workers who consistently obtained fewer than 6 hours of sleep demonstrated reduced attention, slower reaction time, and a greater likelihood of making errors during complex tasks. Now, a possible paraphrase could be, scientists found that workers who regularly sleep less than 6 hours performed worse on difficult tasks because they focused less effectively, reacted more slowly, and made more mistakes. As you see, the paraphrase uses different wording but preserves the same meaning. Step 5 is rearranging the furniture. Healthcare workers who slept less than 6 hours were more likely to make mistakes, react slowly, and struggle to maintain attention during difficult tasks. As you see, the structures are different, but we still preserved the same meaning. Now, let's move to step 6, which is zoom out. And here is a possible zoom out paraphrase. Insufficient sleep can negatively affect workplace performance. The paraphrase provides a broader idea but preserves the meaning. Step 7. Zooming in. Workers who consistently sleep fewer than 6 hours may have difficulty concentrating, may respond more slowly to situations, and may be more likely to make mistakes while performing complex tasks. Again, the zoomed-in paraphrase provides more details yet preserves the same meaning. Step 8 is compression. Sleep deprivation can reduce job performance. The compressed paraphrased version is shorter, yet it preserves the same meaning. Expansion. Workers who consistently fail to obtain adequate sleep often experience reduced concentration, slower mental processing, delayed reactions, and an increased risk of making mistakes when performing demanding tasks. As you see, the expanded paraphrased version provides more details, yet it preserves the same meaning. So you're going to ask yourself, what just happened? Let's stop for a moment. We started with one sentence. Then we applied all 10 strategies. Every strategy changed the wording. Every strategy changed the appearance. Yet the meaning remained the same. That is the entire purpose of paraphrasing. At the beginning, I told you that strong readers focus on meaning rather than words. Now you've seen why. Words change, vocabulary changes, sentence structure changes, details change, examples change, but meaning remains the same. Strong readers understand that meaning is the destination. Words are simply the vehicles that carry us there. The vehicle may change, but the destination does not. It remains the same. And once you begin reading that way, everything becomes easier. Textbooks become easier. Research articles become easier. Reading comprehension questions become easier because you are no longer trapped by wording. You are focused on understanding ideas. Let's review all 10 strategies one final time. Strategy 1, avoid the synonym trap. Strategy 2, the 5-word challenge. Strategy 3, explain it to a 12-year-old. Strategy 4, build word families. Strategy 5, meaning matching. Strategy 6, rearranging the furniture. Strategy 7, zooming out. Strategy 8, zoom in. Strategy 9, compression. Strategy 10, expansion. Before we finish, I want you to practice. I've created a free worksheet that focuses on today's strategies. You'll find the download link below this video. If you would like a more comprehensive resource, don't forget to check out the complete Paraphrasing Mastery Workbook. The workbook contains all 10 strategies, guided exercises, multiple difficulty levels, answer keys, reading comprehension applications, practice passages, and advanced challenges. Remember, the strategies become powerful only and only when you use them. So don't just watch, practice. Let me leave you with one final thought. The goal of reading is not to collect words. The goal of reading is to construct meaning. Every strategy you've learned helps you do exactly that. So next time you encounter a difficult sentence, don't ask, what words is the author using? Instead, ask this question: what idea is the author communicating? That simple shift can completely transform the way you read. If you've enjoyed this series, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future lesson on reading, writing, critical thinking, and academic success. Thank you for learning with me, and I will see you in the next lesson. Take care.